Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Jennifer. How are you
I
today?
am very well. How are you today?
Good. That's good to hear. I'm doing pretty good. Um,
It's Friday.
welcome. It's Friday. Yeah, we're here. We're recording on a Friday, and are we recording or are we live? I don't know. You don't know. You guys don't know. Who knows what we're doing? Um,
Yeah, really. So,
welcome to
what are
Just
we
the
doing?
Tips.
Just the tips.
Just the Tips with Jen and Eric today. Today we're going to talk about managing expectations. Kind of an important topic.
Yeah. So, I have a question for you before we get started, though.
Yeah, hit me with it.
What are you wearing?
Oh, all right. Well, today I'm wearing seriously, this is a 11-day power play. Let me get my stupid little doohickey out of the way here. This is a 11-day power play sweatshirt. And I am gonna, since you brought it up, go ahead with my shameless plug. We're raising money for very, very important cancer research. Roswell Park, Oshai Children's Hospital, Make-A-Wish Foundation, Camp Good Days, all the supporting foundations and organizations for research and treatment. And over the past, I've been involved with this organization now for going on 5 years, maybe six. I'm trying to think back to when we first started. Um, but it's an 11-day hockey game to bring awareness, to raise money, and over that period of time, the amount of money that has been raised through the 11-day power play has been unbelievable. And this community comes together the way that they do, and the generosity and support is just incredible. So, I wear this today to not only let everybody know about what I do and what I'm a part of, but I'm going to try and figure out how to put a little link right here so that hopefully people can click on it and send some donations our way, and it would be greatly appreciated. You could read more about the organization, what it supports, and what it benefits, and if you're so inclined, send a donation our way would be fantastic. So thank you.
That's awesome.
But
Thanks
yeah,
for doing it.
thanks. It's a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. It's a good time. There's a lot of people who are really, really, really dedicated to the cause, who put this thing together, and it's just really well run, and it's a lot of fun. So it's a good thing to do.
And you also get to wear a helmet that is appropriate for the sport that you're playing, unlike the bike ride that you did with me many years ago, where you wore a hockey helmet instead of a bike helmet.
It's the only kind of
Um,
helmet I have. I
I
wear
have
it.
pictures. I'm going to find them.
I wear the hockey helmet skiing sometimes. Why buy different helmets for,
No, it
to
was
protect
quite entertaining.
the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so today we are going to be talking about managing expectations, and how that translates into professional services and contracts and everything else. It's probably one of the most important things a design professional can do, when we're talking about, negotiating fair terms and conditions in a contract and, obviously executing your professional services in accordance with the standard of care. Managing expectations is another, right at the top of the list of ways that you can kind of keep yourself out of trouble.
And avoiding disputes, right? Or
Right.
avoiding an escalation, I guess, of disputes. So last night is an example of how often we negotiate, even in real life. Last night, my son came to me and he wanted to play the sequence in a video game. I'd be lying if I understood any of it, but if I said I understood any of it, I don't. So he asked me if he could play, and it was getting close to bedtime, and I was tired, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So I said, "Listen, buddy, if you wake up early enough tomorrow morning, I'll let you play before school." And that was it. That was like the end of the terms. I prioritized sleep over negotiating good terms with him, right? So I just said that and went to bed. Of course, he's up so early this morning, like Christmas morning. The kid is up and he's in my face, and I'm bleary eyed, and I haven't had coffee yet, and he's demanding that I get him on this system and let him play. And I'm like, but it's too early. And he's like, but you said, and he was right, right? So I'm mommy, so I can put the kibosh on it at any time. I didn't because I didn't have coffee yet. I just needed it to be quiet. So we're clear.
You're allowed to say no to your kids.
Yeah, no, I know that. I'm also allowed to have 15 minutes peace in the morning when I have my coffee. So,
That's fair. I don't know how people parented before electronics. I'm not going to lie to you.
well, I have an older child, so I know.
Well,
It
I
was,
don't. I have a 14 and a 10-year-old, and there's always been electronics, and I feel like it just makes life easier. Anyway, we're getting off topic. Continue.
so I didn't negotiate particularly well with my son, and he was demanding that I get him on the system. I get him on the system, and I, of course, told him just for a little while before school. And so when it was time to get off the video game and get ready for school, he was very upset because he only heard what he wanted to hear. He could play the video game before school. And I can't really be mad at him for being upset. I don't like the attitude, but I can't really be that mad at him for being upset because I didn't lay down the terms of the agreement very well. I didn't negotiate
You guys
terms.
had a written contract in place
We didn't. No.
prior to setting this in.
No. I just wanted him to go to bed. So I can't really be mad at him because it's still my responsibility, right? It's still my responsibility as the parent to make sure that I lay out the terms and conditions. Now, he's going to hear what he wants to hear, regardless of how well I laid out the terms of the agreement, regardless of how concrete or how many times I said, "Are you listening? Did you hear me? Repeat after me." He's still the next day going to be upset when he's not on at 4 a.m. Or has to get off at 6:45 to get ready to go to school. So it's not necessarily that I expect smooth sailing when I try to be clear with the terms of the agreement, but I at least have something I can point back to. And eventually it's going to stick, right? Eventually we get to a point where they're like, all right, mom means business. And it's a lot of the same in managing expectations and professional contracts and in your day to day. We as adults do this all the time at work. We negotiate with our employees, we negotiate with our vendors, we negotiate with our clients. These are the terms of the things that we're going to do, and we have to be clear about them. Sometimes they don't hear them, but at least we can point back to them. Still our responsibility. So when we're talking about clients and managing expectations with their professional contracts and their clients, what we mean is really top to bottom, right? So it starts with marketing. It includes company culture. It includes the message that you bring to your clients. It includes the discussions that you have and the agreements, right? It's more than just the contract, but we focus on the contract because that's what we're involved in.
Right.
That's what we see.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me. I mean, I think that's a good example of what we're talking about because, I think people in general tend to forget the fact that, what you do all day, every day is managing expectations. You do it with your family, you do it with your coworkers, you do it with, people you're involved in contracts with and projects with and everything else. And you're right. I mean, they hear what they want to hear. They don't always receive things the way that you're intending to send it. And, that's just ripe for conflict. So yeah, when we're talking about contracts, we're talking about professional services agreements. That's your opportunity to sort of avoid that problem from happening in the first place. You're a design firm that is being hired by a company that does construction projects all the time. Maybe they're a little more savvy. Maybe they have a little bit better understanding of everybody's role and responsibility. And maybe you've worked with them for, 40 projects now, and you have a good, working relationship with them. You understand how they work and how they operate. So, I think sometimes those situations lull us into a false sense of security that, if the contract isn't really clear on this, that's okay. They know what we're talking about. They know what we're doing.
So when a client comes to you with that kind of a situation and says, you know what, I read your comments, which is always fun. We get the contract, we review it, and then we get the response that, well, we've been working with them for a really long time, so we're not going to actually ask for any of these things. It's not,
and that's okay. It's all right if that's how you want to do it.
maybe.
Depends on what the comments are.
Sure. But how do you respond when a client says to you, listen, I've worked with them for a really long time and I don't think that's their intention. They're not intending to hold my feet to the fire for that. How do you respond to that?
I mean, it's pretty simple in my mind. Intent really means nothing when it comes to a contract. The intent doesn't matter, because I think, as we all know, that all flies out the window as soon as there's a dispute. As soon as there's a problem on the project, it doesn't matter what everybody had sort of verbally agreed to on the front end. It comes down to what the contract says about it. If the contract says something different than what everybody was operating under the assumption of, the contract is going to rule, right? That's the part of it that matters. So if the intent is for something to be a certain way, have it reflect that in the contract. Have the contract say that. We always talk about the contract is a written manifestation of your understanding in writing. So it should be that way. Say what you mean.
Right. Oh, absolutely. So that's a great response to that. I like to use the the story. Well, every time I buy a lottery ticket, I don't, but every time I buy a lottery ticket, I intend to win the lottery. If the numbers don't show it, the numbers don't show it, right? I can't make that argument with the lottery board and expect to get some money. So it's important that the contracts are clear. Vague terms and conditions are fleshed out, right? You want to be able to point back to it and say, hey, this is what we meant. This is how this should be. Yeah. And it's a great opportunity too to figure out whether or not your client understands what you do, what's your role, what's your responsibility. Using words like contractor, right? Or your services as work. Do they think you're responsible for something you're not responsible for? It seems nitpicky, and we respond to it all the time in contracts. We'd prefer to see consultant. We prefer to see services. This could mean that they don't understand what you do.
We did a whole segment on that
not
too long ago, breaking down the reasons why we think that's important. But it comes back to managing those expectations. If your client may have a firm grasp on the fact that you're a consultant and not a contractor, and that you're not doing construction work, but is the jury going to have a firm grasp on that? Is the judge going to have the same firm grasp on it? So you're not just managing those kind of immediate expectations with your direct the person that you're directly contracted with. It could be other people's expectations too. I mean, you're not going to be contracted directly with every single entity that's on the job site, but does everybody have a clear understanding of what their role is and what their responsibility is? If something goes wrong, who do I contact for this? Who am I looking to blame for something that goes wrong? If it's a contractor that gets hurt on a job site, I'd like my client to know on the front end that I'm probably not the first person to come to looking for indemnity on that, and because that's just another fight that we have to have that's unnecessary. So setting those sort of ground rules, I guess you could say, on the front end, it alleviates so many problems down the road.
And then there are the other folks that are tangentially involved or directly involved even. So you've got your staff, for instance, right? Subconsultant staff, do they understand their role? Does your project manager have access to the contract? Do they know what their terms, the terms and conditions are, their responsibility? Do they know what their services should include? And how about the employees that are working, the staff employees that are working on that project? Do they understand how their services impact the project and what they're responsible to?
Yeah,
so
it's bottom.
Top to bottom. It really is. It's top to bottom. Managing expectations is so important, from the tagline on your website to the pictures in your brochures, to the conversations you have with your clients, to the language in your contracts, and to the understanding that the folks who are working on the project have. So important to make sure you're managing expectations top to bottom.
Yeah, I would say as risk managers for design firms, I could tell you that upwards of 95% of the claims that I see that come in through our office that we deal with on a regular basis have something to do with a breakdown in that management of expectations. Somebody along the way thought you were going to be involved in some capacity of doing something that you didn't think you were going to, or vice versa, and it creates these breakdowns, and it's the source of a lot of claims activity. And so, to beat the dead horse a little bit more, that's one way you can avoid claims is properly managing expectations.
Managing expectations, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Eric. This was great.
Jen, this was fantastic. Thank you. Thank you as well. And thanks for everybody who's listening to our possible podcast. That might be what this is.
Maybe.
So join us next time for Just the Tips with Jen and Eric. We'll be talking about more fantastic stuff. Don't forget about the 11-day power play if you're so inclined. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.